You wake up on a Saturday ready to relax. You grab your phone and see a notification. Your iCloud storage is full. That's $2.99 a month to fix. You walk to the kitchen to make coffee, but your smart Keurig requires a firmware update before it will brew. You sit down to watch a movie, but the streaming service you pay $18 a month for has introduced ads unless you upgrade to the Premium Plus tier for another $6. You try to print a return label for an Amazon package, but your printer refuses to work not because it's broken, but because your credit card on file expired and your Instant Ink subscription has remotely disabled the cartridge you already have sitting in the machine. This isn't a dystopian sci-fi novel. This is Tuesday. What you don't see in this picture is a consumer. You see a user. You see someone who looks like they own things. A TV, a printer, a phone, but who actually owns nothing. You are merely renting the functionality of your life, month by month, in a perpetual cycle of micropayments that bleed your bank account dry. This is the era of the usage serf, where the cost of existence isn't just rent and food anymore, it's the thousands of invisible tripwires set up to extract wealth from you every time you try to do something as simple as watch a movie or print a document. My name is Alex, and today we are tearing apart the invisible economy that is eating your paycheck alive. If you've ever looked at your bank account at the end of the month after working 40, 50, maybe 60 hours and thought, I didn't even buy anything big. Where did it all go? I want you to know something important. You are not crazy. And you are not bad with money. You are the victim of a fundamental, systemic shift in how capitalism operates. A shift that happened so slowly most of us didn't even notice until we were already trapped. For the last century, the economic deal was simple. You work, you get paid, you buy goods. You exchange money for an asset. You buy the car, you own the car. You buy the software, you own the software. But in the last decade, that model was quietly killed and replaced by something far more profitable for corporations and far more deadly for your wallet. We shifted from an economy of ownership to an economy of access. And here is the brutal truth that the news isn't telling you. When economists talk about inflation, they are looking at the price of milk, gas, and eggs. They are looking at the CPI. But those numbers are lying to you. Not because the math is wrong, but because they don't account for the life tax. The life tax is the cost of simply participating in modern society. It's the fact that you can't apply for a job without high-speed internet. You can't listen to music without a monthly fee. You can't even drive some cars without a subscription for the remote start. Corporations have layered a toll booth over every single aspect of your existence. This is why you feel broke even if you're making what should be a good salary. You aren't bleeding out from one big wound, you are suffering death by 1,000 cuts. So, before we get into the brutal math, let me tell you exactly what we are going to expose in this video. First, we are going to dissect the subscription trap. I'll show you how companies turned one-time purchases into lifetime mortgages, forcing you to pay thousands of dollars for things you used to buy for $20. We're going to look at planned failure. We have the data that proves your appliances, tech, and clothes are engineered to break faster than ever before, forcing you into a perpetual cycle of rebuying what you already own. We'll expose the junk fee industrial complex. This is the shady world of service fees, convenience fees, and economic recovery fees that are essentially corporations printing money out of thin air. And finally, I'm going to explain why optimizing your budget, or skipping the avocado toast, is mathematically impossible when the goalposts are strapped to a rocket ship. The rules of the game changed, but nobody told you. So today we are going to read the fine print together. Let's dive in. Alex, let's talk about the death of the buy-it-once economy. I want you to close your eyes and imagine your parents' home office in the year 2002. If your dad needed to write a resume or analyze the family budget, he went to Best Buy. He picked up a physical box, probably heavy, wrapped in plastic, that said, Microsoft Office. He paid $149. He went home, inserted the CD-ROM, and installed it. He owned that software. He could use it for 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. It didn't need an internet connection. It didn't ask for his credit card every 30 days. It didn't threaten to delete his files if he missed a payment. It was an asset. It was a tool he owned, just like a hammer or a wrench. Alex, now, look at your life. You don't own tools anymore. You have a relationship with a corporation. You pay $99 a year for Microsoft 365. You pay $60 a month for the Adobe Creative Cloud. You pay for storage on Google Drive. If you are a creative professional, you are effectively paying a career tax just to keep your software running. If you stop paying Adobe, Photoshop doesn't just stop getting updates. It stops opening. You get locked out of your own PSD files. You lose access to your own work. This is the SaaSification of everything. Software as a service. But why did this happen? Did the software get so much better that it required a monthly tithe? No, Alex, it happened because of churn. In the old days, companies had to earn your money every few years by releasing a product that was actually better than the last one. If Office 2007 wasn't better than Office 2003, you didn't buy it. You held on to your cash. This terrified Wall Street. They hate lumpy revenue. They want recurring revenue. They want a drip feed attached directly to your bank account that you are too tired to turn off. When Adobe switched to a subscription-only model in 2013, users revolted. They signed petitions. They screamed on forums. But Wall Street? They cheered. Adobe's stock price didn't just go up, it went parabolic. They proved that if you hold the tools of creation hostage, people will pay the ransom. Alex, but if this stayed in the computer, maybe we could live with it. The horror story is that this rent-seeker virus has infected the physical world, that we are entering the era of hardware as a service. Let's look at the BMW example, because it is the perfect mask-off moment for late-stage capitalism. A few years ago, BMW started installing heated seats in all their cars at the factory. The heating coils, the wiring, the buttons, it was all there. You paid for the materials when you bought the car, but if you pressed the button, nothing happened. Unless you paid a monthly subscription of $18 to unlock the warmth. Alex, let that sink in. The hardware is yours. It is sitting in your driveway. But the manufacturer has placed a digital padlock on it and is demanding rent for a feature you already own. This isn't just cars. It's your printer. HP has a service called Instant Ink. If you cancel your subscription, the ink cartridges in your printer, the ones that are sitting in the machine right now, full of ink, will stop working. The printer communicates with the mothership, realizes you stopped paying the rent, and remotely disables the physical cartridge. It's your doorbell. Buy a Ring camera or a Google Nest. Great. You own the plastic lens. But if you want to see who was at your door 10 minutes ago, that's a subscription. Without the monthly fee, your smart home becomes a dumb home. You have bought a $200 paperweight that requires a $5 monthly fee to function. Alex, we used to call this the Internet of Things. We should call it the Internet of Landlords. You are a tenant in your own house. You are renting the functionality of your lights, your thermostat, your car, and your entertainment. And here is where the brutal math comes in. You might think, Alex, it's just $10 here and $15 there. Who cares? Alex, a study by C+R Research found that the average American estimates they spend about $86 a month on subscriptions. The reality? The actual average is $219 a month. That is a discrepancy of over $130. You are underestimating your financial bleed by 2.5 times. But let's look at the opportunity cost. $219 a month is $2,628 a year. Over a decade, that is $26,280. If you invested that $219 a month into the S&P 500 with an average 8% return over 40 years your working life, that money would turn into $760,000. Alex, when you sign up for these services, you aren't just buying convenience. You are lighting $750,000 on fire. That $2,600 a year? That's not a Netflix account. That is a used Honda Civic every 3 years that you are effectively driving off a cliff. Companies realize that selling you a product once is a terrible business model. Selling you a product once means they have to find a new customer tomorrow. But selling you the right to use the product? That is infinite revenue. Alex, this is the fundamental shift. Exchange, I give you money, you give me goods. The transaction is over. We are equals. Extraction, I give you money, you give me access. If I stop giving you money, you take the access away. The transaction is never over. I am a serf. You are the Lord. They haven't just raised prices. They have fundamentally changed the definition of property rights. You don't own your iPhone music library, Apple does. You don't own your Kindle books, Amazon does. You don't own your tractor, John Deere does. We have moved from a society of owners to a society of users. And users is just a polite word for cash cows. But if you think paying rent on your own heated seats is bad, wait until you see how they're designing things to break on purpose. Alex, if the subscription model is how they bleed you on software, planned obsolescence is how they crush you on hardware. We all have that one friend, or maybe it's your grandmother who has a washing machine in her basement from 1988. It shakes the whole house. It sounds like a jet engine taking off. It is ugly as sin. But guess what? It works. It has washed clothes for 35 years without a single complaint. Now look at your smart wash system from 2019. It plays a little melody when it finishes. It connects to Wi-Fi. It has an app. And yet, 3 years in, it is already leaking, the touchscreen is glitching, and it's flashing an error 53 code that requires a certified technician to decipher. Alex, this is not an accident. This is not bad luck. This is engineering. In the 1990s, the average lifespan of major home appliances was over 20 years. Today, the National Association of Home Builders estimates it is just 6 to 10 years. Companies realize that making a product that lasts forever is a terrible way to make money. If they sell you a perfect fridge, they lose a customer for 2 decades. So, they started replacing metal gears with plastic ones. They started putting sensitive computer chips next to heat sources. They engineered the death date directly into the blueprint. Alex. But nowhere is this more predatory than in the tech in your pocket. We need to talk about serialization, or as I call it, the assassination of repair. Apple, Samsung, and John Deere have pioneered a system where individual parts are digitally paired to the motherboard. Let's say you drop your iPhone and crack the screen. You, being a smart consumer, buy a genuine working screen from another identical iPhone to swap it out. It should work, right? It's an original Apple part. It won't, Alex. The phone will reject the transplant. Features like Face ID or True Tone will stop working. Not because the part is broken, but because you didn't pay Apple's authorized tax to bless the repair. They have effectively made it illegal by code to fix your own property. They are gluing batteries inside laptops. They are soldering RAM onto motherboards. They are designing products that are impossible to open without destroying them. A timeline graph. One line shows income, the other shows replacement costs. The replacement line is spiking. Alex, the brutal math here is staggering. If your parents bought a washing machine for $800, that cost was amortized over 20 years. That's $40 a year. You buy a machine for $1,000 but it dies in 5 years. That is $200 a year. Your cost of living for appliances has increased 500%, but the inflation index doesn't capture that because the purchase price didn't change, only the lifespan did. Alex, walking through a literal junkyard of new tech. Alex, this creates a disposable economy.
My name is Alex.
You aren't broke because you buy too many lattes or because you're bad at saving. You are broke because you are forced to repurchase the entire infrastructure of your life every 24 to 36 months. You aren't a consumer anymore. You are a recycler who pays for the privilege of holding onto garbage for a few years before it breaks. And if you think that's frustrating, wait until we look at the costs that aren't even for products, but for literally nothing at all. Alex holding his phone, looking at a food delivery app. He looks tired. The screen shows a picture of a delicious burger. We were sold a beautiful lie a decade ago. We were told that apps like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub were about convenience. They were the ultimate life hack. Press a button, get a burrito. But looking back, that wasn't convenience. That was a trap. What these platforms actually are is a massive algorithmic arbitrage of labor costs designed to separate you from your money through 1,000 invisible layers. A receipt scrolls on screen. It keeps getting longer. Alex, let's do the autopsy of a lunch order. You see a burger for $15. Reasonable. You put it in your cart. But then the math of the middleman kicks in. $3.99 delivery fee. $2.50 service fee. $2 small order fee because apparently you didn't buy enough food. $1 California driver benefit fee. $5 tip. Suddenly that $15 burger is $29.50. And it arrives cold. A chart showing in-store price versus app price. Alex, but the scam goes deeper than the fees. Most people don't realize they are paying a shadow markup. Because these apps charge restaurants a parasitic 30% commission. The restaurants have no choice but to raise prices on the app just to break even. A New York Times investigation found that delivery apps mark up menu prices by an average of 15% to 91% compared to what you would pay if you just walked into the store. You are paying a premium, on top of a fee, on top of a markup. You aren't buying food anymore. You are funding a logistics company's IPO. Hard cut. Alex is standing in front of a modern coffee shop counter. He mimics swiveling an iPad around. Alex, but the financial cost is nothing compared to the psychological cost. We have to talk about the moral offloading of wages. Somewhere in the last 5 years, the social contract of tipping broke. Tipping used to be a reward for exceptional service. A thank you for going above and beyond. Today, tipping is a hostage negotiation. Corporations have successfully convinced the American public that it is our job to pay their employees' salaries directly. They have kept the minimum wage stagnant for decades and told the customer, hey, if you don't pay extra, this person doesn't eat. Extreme close-up of a digital tip screen. The options are 20%, 25%, 30%. There is no no-tip button visible. Alex, this has created a phenomenon I call guiltflation. It is the dreaded iPad swivel. You order a black coffee. Takes 15 seconds to pour. The barista spins the tablet around. The screen stares at you. The barista stares at you. The line behind you stares at you. The default options are 22%, 25%, and 30%. If you hit no tip, you feel like a monster. If you hit custom amount, you look cheap. So you panic. You hit 20%. You just paid a social anxiety tax. You didn't tip because the service was good. You tipped because you were afraid of being judged. That is not gratitude. That is emotional extortion. Alex standing at a self-checkout kiosk at a grocery store. He looks confused. Alex. But the absolute peak of this insanity, the moment where reality completely fractured, is the self-checkout tip. We are now seeing tip screens at airports, stadiums, and grocery store kiosks where no human interaction took place. You scanned your own kale. You bagged your own eggs. You acted as the cashier. And then, the machine has the audacity to ask for a 20% gratuity. Alex, who is that money for? Did the robot do a good job? Are we tipping the software developer? Are we tipping the electricity? No. This is revenue masquerading as generosity. This is companies realizing that if they put a tip line on a screen, a certain percentage of people will click it out of muscle memory or confusion. It is free money for them, and it is a morality tax for you. Alex, this creates a constant low-level hum of financial stress. You can't just buy a sandwich. You have to perform a moral calculus every time you tap your card. You are subsidizing their payroll with your post-tax income, and if you don't, the system is designed to make you feel like the bad guy. It's brilliant, really. They pit the struggling customer against the struggling worker, while the corporation sits in the middle, collecting the fees from both sides. But if you think that's shady, wait until we get to the fees that aren't even pretending to be for a service. The fees that exist simply because they can. Let's dive into the most infuriating sector of the invisible economy, the junk fee. President Biden's administration highlighted that Americans lose $90 billion annually to these fees. This is drip pricing. You see a concert ticket for $50. You click buy. Suddenly there is a venue facility fee, a processing fee, a convenience fee, and a print-at-home fee. The ticket is now $95. This destroys your ability to budget. How can you plan your finances when the advertised price is never the real price? It's a psychological trick to get you to commit to the purchase before revealing the true cost. It's not just annoying, it's predatory. It's economic gaslighting where the market tells you one thing and charges you another. Here is a cost nobody puts in their spreadsheet: the cost of your privacy. Car insurance companies are now buying data from your smart car, or that safe driving app you downloaded to save $5 a month. They track how hard you brake and how late you drive. There are reports of premiums skyrocketing because a driver drove too often at night. You are paying for the privilege of being spied on. If you want to opt out, you often can't, or you have to pay a premium for the dumb version of the product, which is becoming increasingly rare. The invisible cost here is your autonomy. You are trading your personal behavioral data for the basic ability to participate in society, and that data is being used to charge you more money down the line. What does this constant financial besieging do to a human brain? It creates decision fatigue. Researchers have found that the average person makes 35,000 decisions a day. But when every single interaction, reading the news, watching TV, buying a coffee, involves navigating a paywall, a tip screen, or a subscription tier, your brain burns out. This leads to subscription paralysis. You know you should cancel that gym membership you don't use, or that streaming service you haven't watched in months. But the cancellation process is designed to be a labyrinth. It's a dark pattern. They make joining take one click and leaving take a phone call to a retention specialist who is trained to not let you hang up. So you just pay it. You pay the ADHD tax. You pay the I'm too tired to fight this tax. So what are we doing about it? We are seeing the return of behaviors that economists call inefficient, but are actually survival mechanisms. Piracy is back. Not because people are criminals, but because people are tired of needing 17 different logins to watch one season of a show. The right to repair movement. People are hacking their own tractors and downloading illegal software just to fix their own property. Underconsumption core. The trend on TikTok where people brag about not buying things, about using the same makeup for 2 years, about wearing old clothes. This isn't just being cheap. This is a rebellion. It is a rational response to a marketplace that has become hostile to the consumer. When the system is designed to bleed you dry, keeping your wallet closed becomes a revolutionary act.